started. Hi guys, hope you're well. Omar here, and also in the same room in the studio here is Tony.
Hey guys. Very exciting.
Yep, it's going to be great. So I'm not sure if you've got some new faces there as well. We're recording this as for people that can't come tonight or wherever you are. But what we do here, this is our little weekly digest where we essentially go through everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, because we haven't done one of these in quite a while. We have been very busy and the market has been doing its things. So we've got lots to update you. So the way that we do this is we've got a few members of the team here. Want to introduce you guys to a new person, part of the team, and just going to do a little bit of profiling and then do a little bit of update on, you know, the technicals, all of the pilots, because we've had a lot of questions. And then at the end of this, we'll open it up to the floor, and you guys can ask some questions if you want. So yeah, exciting stuff. So who's going to be talking today is going to be myself and Tony. I'll be hosting, asking the questions. And then we've got Guy, who's there, Sanjoy, and Daniel. So these will be our main speakers tonight. And then once we get to the end of it, we've got a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll open up the floor to you guys. So yeah, let's get started. So Guy, Sanjoy, Daniel, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes, hello everyone.
There they are. There they are. If there's any, I think we're all good. There's no issues here. You guys can hear us okay, can you?
Yes, coming through nice and clear.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Okay, well, let's get started. We've got a lot to get through, so let's get moving. So I think we're going to start off with the tech. We haven't got Diego, our CTO, involved at the moment. He's actually, it's 4 a.m. in the morning for him. And
something like that.
And he's been working crazy over there. He's got a lot to update us and you guys on. But I think what we'll do is we'll actually, Tony, do you want to give us a bit of an update?
Yeah. So the main thing that we've really been working on is testing a lot of bits and pieces on the Cardano network. So we have actually minted our first NFTs or CNFTs. We've also minted our first trial CNFT COVID passport. So that's really cool. We've got that running out of our interplanetary file system, and everything's going well. So we're very, very happy about our progress there. We are also onboarding some more Haskell development teams. So we have one DevOps that's just started, and we have another developer coming on board as well. So we're building our internal team to help us strengthen that, and then work with our external development team. So there's a lot happening in the development department at the moment. We have started to test and deploy Plutus smart contracts, and it's all been very, very busy.
Yep, lots going on. So Diego's had some great success there as well.
One other thing we've been working on is we've actually got the proof of concept doctors portal, I guess you'd call it, or the doctors interface, which is going to be deployed shortly in Cameroon for testing. And then we've also been working on the user interface for your crypto user to get in your wallet and bits and pieces like that. So these various programs of development going on at the moment, all going to converge and come together in a big way shortly.
Yeah, we've got a lot to update you and show you. So the app development, as Tony said, on both sides is, well, one's complete, and then the user one we're just working on at the moment, but it looks absolutely fantastic. Okay.
Mark,
yes.
I'll just chip in there. I think developing our first NFT on Cardano is fairly significant. I mean, I know it's not, earth-shattering in terms of its technical sophistication, but it's a cornerstone of our business model. In Africa at the moment, there's less than 10% of people that are vaccinated with COVID, and the population there is over 1.3 billion people. So there's a huge demand for some way of proving your vaccination status. So now that we've got the potential to and the ability to create NFTs, we can now start capturing vaccination data in our pilots and start producing COVID vaccination NFTs. So it's a very important milestone, even though some of you might be thinking, oh, well, NFT is not that spectacular. For us, it's critical.
Yeah, and another little pointer on that as well is that, like, we were working on Ethereum at one point, just testing their NFTs, and the price that we're paying for those NFTs is just it's not affordable. And this NFT that we minted was relatively cheap as well, and very seamless. So just working on the tech, you're right, Guy. It was a big milestone, and it was actually easy to do for us. So it's a big stage. Also, another thing we're going to talk about is our marketing team that we've got on board. We've got a few different marketing teams on board, but we've recruited a major one that's actually helping us right now with all of our publicity. Because as you guys can imagine, we have got a lot going on in the real world and also the crypto world. So they've been very good. You know, they're in the community right now on the management side of things, and they're helping us with all of our documents and really helping us in all different areas. So that's been great.
Yeah, you've probably noticed the group jump a little bit and a bit more content coming out. So we're starting to just continue to wind it up as we continue to move forward.
And so I think that's the update on the tech, I would say. We have been talking to some Cardano programmers, marketing. Yep. So I think what we might do is, we've got Sanjoy here, who is our Chief Science Officer, which I think we would like to introduce you guys to. And just give a little bit of, Sanjoy, just give the community a bit of background information about yourself and what you're doing here for Immunify.life.
Right, thank you all. Thanks for joining in. So my name is Sanjoy. I've been in the healthcare space for about 30 years, and 20 of those have been in the crafting and developing and implementation of innovative health IT solutions across 3 continents, predominantly in the chronic disease space, but more recently in the infectious disease space. One of the sort of challenges that clinicians face is that they're not quite clear as to what protocols they need to follow, which are best practice. So a lot of clinicians have been, who would have graduated 15, 20 years ago, bless them, they sort of manage their patients based on what they learned 15 or 20 years ago. And while they do some reading up, behavior, unfortunately, takes the sort of takes force, and they tend to practice the way they were trained. These systems provide clinical decision support at the point of care, and so they help clinicians at the point of care to be able to manage patients based on best practice. The other upside to them utilizing systems in managing of patients is that they enter this data into these systems. And by entering the data into the systems, it gives them a clear sense of the ability to understand the importance of interventions in achievement of patient health outcomes. When doctors don't have good quality data systems, they really don't know whether they made a difference to patients' lives. And giving them this ability has, in our experience over the last 20 years, given them significant upside in being able to get a clear sense of what they've done well and what they need to do better. The systems that we've implemented also give the clinicians the ability to benchmark themselves and compare themselves to other doctors in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. And they, utilizing this benchmarking ability, are able to get a clear sense of where the improvement opportunities are, but also allow them to pat themselves on their back in terms of which clinical attributes they're managing quite well. One of the fundamental pieces in the implementation of these systems over the past many years is being able to give stakeholders access to this high quality data. So an example I could give you is we ran a project with the UNFPA, which is the United Nations Family Planning Association, in conjunction with the Department of Health in the Philippines. And we implemented a capability to allow clinicians to be able to understand which patients qualified for which family planning methods. And in the past, when these large philanthropic organizations have given money to countries, they sort of feel that they've done their job by writing a check, and they don't really expect anything back in return. By working with the Department of Health in the Philippines, we provided this capability which allowed clinicians to pivot and target the right family planning interventions for the right patients. And within 18 months, 1/3 of unwanted pregnancies were avoided. This was a significant upside for patients, because a lot of patients were not planning to have babies, but now having the right family planning methods were able to avoid that and manage their lives better. But more importantly, it gave the Department of Health in the Philippines a world first. It allowed them to show off to their donors the importance of the data they have in being able to provide a sort of return of investment to the stakeholders. And the United Nations was actually quite chuffed because for the first time, they were able to see the value of their investment in terms of what it was making a difference to, not just at a macro level, but at a patient level. And this program was then exported to other countries like Cambodia and Laos. Similarly, we've done work, in the chronic disease space for diabetes. Diabetes, is endemic in Asian countries in particular because of the diet and the lifestyle. And we implemented a capability in over 650 hospitals in 11 countries and encouraged the clinicians who were participating in these projects to sort of take a good hard look at their data and pool their information so that they could sort of share the clinical outcomes across large cohorts of their peers. To date, the systems we've implemented have generated over 10 publications, in leading journals such as the Journal of American Medicine, the British Lancet, etc. You would, more recently, courtesy of COVID and the vaccines, in the United States, Pfizer, one of the first countries to implement the Pfizer vaccine outside of the United States was Israel. And there was no shortage of countries wanting to buy their medicines. But one of the reasons they chose to make their medicines available to Israel was Israel said, in return for you giving us the vaccines, for which we will write you a check, we will also give you data. And this was the sort of gold nugget that Pfizer was after. They had done very limited trials because they were under the pressure or under the pump to be able to deliver safe, effective vaccines to the large population. And so given their timeframes, they weren't able to really do or have the luxury of being able to assess clinical trials over 5 or 6 years like they've been done in the past. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that the gold nugget in all these capabilities is the information of the patient. The patient information, regardless in what form it's made available, whether it's identified for clinicians or whether it's aggregated for stakeholders, it all points to the value of and the importance of having good quality patient data so that the clinicians can get a clear sense of the value of their interventions. They can also understand which medications are making the most difference to which types of patients. It also allows patients to get a better sense of the impact of their medicines on their own health and provide stakeholders and NGOs, for example, a good, clean, transparent value about how their investments are making a difference in large cohorts across various regions. So that's just a quick summary of the experience that we bring to Immunify. But more importantly, we are utilizing our significant experience, proven experience, in customizing and making sure that the Immunify solution has all these attributes, all these proven, tested, peer-reviewed attributes that will provide clear advantage to patients, to clinicians, to stakeholders, and to funders. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjoy. Yes, we are very, very pleased to have Sanjoy and such quality members of our team. So, yeah, just a short snapshot into some of the insights that we have from our leading doctors. So now I think we should actually swing to Daniel Kenny to just give us a quick update on what's been happening with the clinical trials.
Yes, thank you, and lovely to have Sanjoy joining us today on the Weekly Digest. Just a quick update on 2 real-world applications, and I think Sanjoy has provided a perfect context into what we're trying to achieve, and it was just great to hear that. First, next week we expect to film the first use of the Immunify.life technology in Cameroon with Dr. Tabe in northeastern Cameroon. And he'll be using the app in a clinic setting for COVID. And so we'll be sharing vision, and obviously in due course we'll be sharing feedback on the technology as it's rolled out. So you'll need to watch this space, but we're basically using the app that's been developed for COVID-19. And we will be obviously filming it and getting feedback on the technology, seeing how we can collect data and track patients and communicate with the patients through the SMS system that's installed with the technology. Probably the most exciting news for the week on the clinical front, the clinical application of our technology, is that our partnership in Kenya with MWUST and Immunify.life has reached a really important milestone with the submission of our clinical study protocol to the university's ethics committee. And this is very important for a variety of reasons, primarily because we are now embarking on our 5-year collaboration with the university. And our goal is to investigate the effectiveness of not only the technology in its ability to collect data and to track clinical data in HIV AIDS, but to investigate the effectiveness of incentives and rewards and replacing paper-based systems which are open to fraud and an inability to track patient outcomes. So by incentivizing and rewarding patients, we want to be able to show that that leads to behavior modification and adherence to treatment, thereby improving patient outcomes, but at the same time strengthening the healthcare system. And we've chosen to move into HIV AIDS. And as you're probably well aware, that there's 1.5 million people living with HIV in Kenya alone. And in the Kakamega County, there's 57,000 people infected with HIV. And we are hoping through the collaboration with the university that we will set the future direction of HIV management, not only in that county, but right across Kenya. So this is really quite exciting. And I'll just run through just very quickly the objectives of the study: to test the effectiveness of the Immunify token reward system in incentivizing patients to remain on therapy, to evaluate the reward system, the token reward system in managing patients with HIV AIDS, and to look at the socioeconomic factors that may hinder retention of these patients on clinical programs. And as Sanjoy indicated, in the Philippines context, we believe that the Kenyan government will be keenly looking at this program to see how we can enhance both at the individual patient level, but also at the healthcare system level, improvements in treatment, and that will lead to further allocation of resources. So we believe that this study will contribute to the future direction of HIV treatment in Kenya and ultimately for the rest of Africa. So really exciting times, and we will obviously be able to keep everybody informed of that as we move along. That's enough for now, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome, Danny. Thank you very much for that. One more just question about the trials. Now, with America and what's going on there, do you want to just touch on, I know you've been doing a lot of work with the State of the Heart. Do you want to just touch on some of the bits and pieces you've been talking to them about lately?
Yes, certainly. We're working with the State of the Heart Recovery Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And once again, this, as Sanjoy talked about earlier, the team has vast experience in terms of years, but also in various regions. So yes, we have an absolute focus on low and middle income countries, but now we're moving into opioid treatment in a first world setting. And the State of the Heart Recovery Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, has a very groundbreaking program in opioid and substance abuse treatment. And we are now developing a platform to collect data on those treatment programs. So, for example, the technology, and we're developing a pilot study now, we're modifying our existing platform to track patients' group and individual therapy sessions, their adherence to methadone treatment if they're heroin addicts, and also to do urine screening. And the data is collected using the technology. Some of that information is fed back to the patient ultimately. And if the patient remains adherent to therapy, they are sometimes awarded accommodation or employment, further enhancing their treatment program. And so once again, like the HIV AIDS study in Kenya, the Cameroonian study in COVID, we're looking at using the Immunify token reward system to incentivize patients, to motivate patients to modify their behavior, to stay on treatment longer term. And this will also be a world first, showing that incentivization, offering rewards through Immunify tokens will enhance not only HIV compliance, but also compliance with opioid treatment. So we've already started the programming work. We had a fantastic call with Guy Newing and the clinicians at State of the Heart last weekend. And we already started working with Diego and some of our software engineers on developing some of the clinical screens to allow this to happen. So sorry for the long-winded answer, Tony, but we're now in COVID, HIV AIDS, opioid treatment, not just operating in Africa, but now operating in the United States.
Yeah, can I just jump in here? Thank you very much, Daniel. As the CEO of this organisation, it really makes me so proud to hear the work we're doing. We are pioneering. This is really cutting edge work, using the latest in blockchain technology to make a difference. Like, we are changing, really making a concrete difference to people's lives, not only in small villages in Cameroon or across Africa, but also to marginalised people in first world economies as well, like in New Mexico. And it is such a great feeling to know that you can use blockchain technology to make a difference, and also all the investors that support us along the way can do very well as we grow and are successful. So very exciting time.
It is very exciting.
Very exciting. Well said. Definitely well said. Very exciting.
That's awesome.
Omar, if I could also just dive in one final comment.
Sure, Danny.
My background is in big pharma, and yes, I am motivated, as Guy indicated, to drive improvements in individual patient outcomes and also in supporting and strengthening healthcare systems, and that's our big primary driver. But if I put on a commercial hat, governments, NGOs, pharma industries are always looking for adherence and compliance to therapy, and they will want to track the effectiveness of new therapies, existing therapies. Governments and NGOs will pay for ensuring that their programs are effective. And this technology that we're piloting currently in 3 therapeutic areas, I believe will lead the way. And I think that will also lead to strong commercial uptake of our technology moving forward. So we should, on a subsequent weekly digest, talk about the commercial spin-offs from all this activity. Yes, our primary driver here is, shall we say, humanitarian, but I think there is also a strong commercial driver, because if it's not commercially successful, it won't be sustainable long term. So I feel that we need to look at both sides of the street, so to speak. And I thought I'd just emphasize that this is clearly adding tremendous value at a patient or at a clinic level. But I think ultimately showing adherence to therapy drives a strong commercial imperative.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well said. I think we've covered off a lot of ground.
A lot of info there.
We need to do these more regularly. I think we've done a lot. The tech's moving, partnerships are coming along. When it comes to, this is a lot in the real world, but when it comes back to the crypto, and it comes back to who we've been talking to and the partnerships that we want to be creating with the right people. It's basically doors are opening for this business due to our team, our tokenomics, and just what we stand for. And it's been fantastic. Just we've been working and talking to some of the biggest VCs, IDO platforms, and it's, you know, we are very different. And some have found that hard, but it's actually it's a very good opportunity for us. And actually, it's good to be different.
I think a lot are excited.
Oh, they are.
A lot are excited that, you know, we've been waiting a long time for someone to actually do something that's meaningful with cryptocurrency and blockchain. So, you know, this certainly is revolutionary as far as change and positive change in the world.
Totally, it's fantastic.
Should we get into some questions? Because we do have a couple of questions that have popped up in the group. We should probably address them.
Yeah.
Should we get into that?
Unless Guy, Danny, Sanjoy, have you got anything else you want to mention, add?
Oh, I would just say I'm really happy with the way the community is growing, and my philosophy is I'd like to get the community involved. You guys, people have been involved since the beginning. And so as we grow, I'd like to draw on you more to get feedback on things like, projects that we could be involved in, what sort of rewards we should be giving the community, what sort of competitions, what sort of charity work we should be doing. So we've got a new marketing person on, Sarah, who's based in London, and we'll be talking to her about how she can get you guys and girls more involved and help shape the future of what we're doing.
Totally, yeah, because we can't do without the community, and the community has been great. And this is one of the things lots of other communities we've been part of is quite closed off, but we just want to work with everyone. And if you've got some value to add, please bring it in. We're always open and welcoming. So yeah, fantastic. All right, we'll get into some questions. There's been a bit of confusion around the ERC20 versus the Cardano native. So we essentially want to sort of touch on that, and most of this will be around the tokenomics, because as you can see, the business and everything, our partnerships is fine. It's just around the tokenomics. So when it comes to the ERC20 and the Cardano confusion,
so originally when we piloted, the first pilot was in Mumbai. We were actually in ERC20, where everything was done on ERC20, and we are really focused on outcomes rather than people first, chain second. So effectively, this whole system has been developed to run on ERC20 now, immediately. And the idea is that, we would pivot to Cardano and be able to run on Cardano. Now, smart contracts have been deployed well and everything's going swimmingly. So we've actually escalated the effort to move to Cardano. And that's why we're now minting these Cardano NFTs and looking at just the how-tos and what we need to do exactly to deploy. But we still are in ERC20 because we need to be able to deploy in Cameroon like next week, and continue our vision to become an ADA 20.
And at the moment, we do say we're powered by Cardano. Why? Because we are the Cardano ecosystem. We're intending to be on Cardano, but right now we are powered by Cardano because one of our big partners, which is Atala Prism, they are on Cardano and they are KYC funds. So powering us, yeah. And So it's a bit funny because we have all these Cardano projects that effectively are ERC20 tokens because Cardano just hasn't really been available to use, but now it is. So now we're looking at our options, but effectively the most important thing is that we're able to deploy a solid, robust system at speed. And when it came to when we were chatting to IOHK about that ERC20 to Cardano converter many months ago, we had this date when they were going to do smart contracts, and we're like, oh, that's fantastic. Hopefully it goes through. But again, at the end of the day, we all know Cardano. We know how they work. So we didn't actually think that date would actually happen. But it did. And smart contracts are getting deployed, over 80,000 smart contracts and NFTs. So we've got faith in Cardano, but we were quite shocked. We thought it would take a bit of time. And even they, at that point, when we were talking to them in, I think it was June, they were even saying that it might actually take longer. But it hasn't. So now that's why we're onboarding some Haskell developers. We're also, our CTO is now fully in the Cardano, minting the NFTs, because yeah, it seems that we can do it. And if we can do it, then we're on it immediately.
Yeah, so, we continue to pilot and we get ready to move. And when we roll out one of the bigger deployments, say across the HIV program with Kenya, that's a perfect place to deploy Cardano. And we hope to also be running on Cardano when we deploy in the United States for opioid addiction. So again, we are just not quite ready to be there yet, but we plan to be there.
Totally. And then another question here is about the M token demand. We do stress a lot about the business of the partnerships because that is because we are a real world business and we are in two industries, the crypto industry and actually in healthcare. So the healthcare is very important. So is the crypto, but the whole thing is powered by the crypto. The cryptocurrency, the M token is the underlying technology that is the fuel of this whole ecosystem. So then the question is, well, how are these tokens how are they gonna get the demand? How is the price of the token gonna work, or how is these tokens, what are they used for in the space? So, I mean, it comes down to, we've got a unique staking model that people, users, NGOs, our business partners, our clients, they'll all be staking a certain amount of tokens to have access to some of our services that Immunify.life has as its business front. So essentially, when an NGO comes in, or government or foundation, a certain percentage, I'm not sure if you guys know about this or have gone to look at the tokenomics, proof of business, where a certain percentage, 50% of that fee is actually put through the ecosystem of Immunify.life. And then a certain percentage of that, let's say if they're doing the incentivization protocol, a very small portion of that is going to be used for that. But then the rest of it is actually going to be actually in the ecosystem. It's also a payment settlement layer. And I think what else it's pretty much.
Yeah,
I think that's.
Yeah, so there's just various means of staking. So effectively, the tokens will be tied up with people staking and getting access to the data is one of our core, values. So the system is a data play. And so people that want access to that data will lock these tokens up and they won't be circulating. And various users in the system will stake for, sovereign identification and for our cards. When we start to deploy the cards, people will be staking. So all various mechanisms of tying the tokens up.
Mm-hmm. And we've got some really impressive people that are actually working on this tokenomics with us, with that whole staking element and then the adoption curve they're creating. It's very exciting, and there's a lot coming on this front.
We should probably have an AMA on the staking later, actually.
We will with the guys.
Totally.
With the guys that are building it for us. They're going to be probably around next week, so we might actually add them to the next weekly digest. So, yep. So I think that's mostly the questions here. At the moment, we are going through a private round. VCs. We're talking to a lot of influencers as well, KOLs. VCs and lots of the public. So that's what we're going through right now. And if anyone is interested or wants to have a chat about that, please DM us in the myself or Tony in the chat.
So we have some questions here.
Yeah, let's go to the community. We've also got some of our other team here as well. So we've got Kinza, we've got Dola, we've got So look, essentially, if you guys want to pipe up and say something as well or answer, that's absolutely fine. So let's open up to the community. We've got a couple of people asking some questions here. We see that C-Force Rocks. I will never DM you, who wants to have us. You were the first one to ask something, so we're going to put you on the stage. Up you come. Probably going to be on mute immediately, so just if you want to say something, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, mate.
Awesome. Hey, I just say, I love you guys' work. This project sounds absolutely amazing. I've been following you guys for about a month now, and I love you guys' progression, all that kind of stuff. One question I did have was just in relation to the NFT side of things. How does it actually work? Exactly.
So an exactly work question is something for our CTO. That's definitely a Diego question. Effectively, we are just minting an NFT. We have the code here, and it pulls the information from our file system and displays it in an immutable fashion. But as far as the actual technicalities about how he's doing it, that's
All right.
definitely
Yeah.
Are you asking about the technical side or actually in the real world side? Because I can talk about the real world, how it'll work, but I couldn't explain to you the different layers of the interaction between the various pieces of the blockchain.
I was just wanting to get a really good understanding of the NFT side of things and all that. So, yeah, just explain the real world side. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that we've got is the way it will work. Imagine a patient goes and sees their doctor in, say, a clinic in Nigeria. Two things are going to happen. One, the practice will identify that patient. So they will go, okay, show me your national identification card or your passport, etc., and that'll be captured in the system. At the same time, the doctor will capture the barcode of the actual vaccination data. So you'll have two key pieces of information. You'll know you've basically KYC'd the patient, and you've also KYC'd the vaccine. So once that information's captured and stored on blockchain, we can mint an NFT with that data. And then, as you know, with an NFT, it can't be forged, it can't be copied, and it can't be transferred. So it's really the ultimate proof of and security, as opposed to someone, turning up saying, "Hi, I'm from Nigeria," turning up in America with a laminated piece of paper going, "Trust me, I've been vaccinated." So what we believe is we've got the most secure, most irrefutable way of documenting your vaccination status. Because you can imagine, you can actually get fake vaccines, you can get fake identities, all those sorts of things.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I love it. Sounds really good.
Yeah, there's also another element, as Guy said, it can't be transferred. So that's one of the major questions. Everyone gets a bit stuck on that. Well, why can't I just sell my identity to someone? Well, would you sell your passport is a question. And then the other question is, with this, we've got a stacking layer of NFT. So when it comes to the medical records, when you give access to a doctor to write their medical record of that event, they can only see what you give them authorization to see. So once you've finished with that doctor, they just add that NFT minting of all of that information on top of your layer of blockchain. So essentially that's how that works. And then every time that there's an event with an NFT of a scanning of a vaccine, essentially that just gets minted onto your blockchain. So that is the base layer of it, but then the technicality, of course, we'll have to get into.
Yeah, it's a lot. The Cardano NFTs are much more different.
Much different.
Very different from the traditional, Ethereum-based ones. So it's
it's a different ballpark, and there's going to be a lot of education that we have to do. But again, it's a very as a user of the app or people that are going to be minting NFTs, it's going to be very seamless in our app. We've seen the development of it so far, and it's the way that it's been displayed. You click on it, the QR code comes on, the doctor scans that to have a look at that COVID vaccine or whatever it is. Essentially, it's a very seamless process.
All right, guys, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We've got, anyone else wants to ask any questions?
Yep.
All right. Well, we've got here the Crypto Wall Street promo channel.
All right.
I'm going to let you up, mate.
It's Leonardo.
Hi. Thanks for this wonderful presentation. Project looks very exciting. So well done, guys. I had a quick question with respect to protection of your concept here, IP. Have you guys got any? Have you got any copyright protection or for this concept, which I think is amazing here, especially with respect to connecting blockchain to vaccine passports, because it looks like you guys are the first movers in this space. So one is protection. Have you guys got protection for your concept? My second question was, I've got a number of questions. The second question was, in terms of funding, how much funding has been raised so far, privately, and also when you go public, obviously with your public pre-sale, how much money are you intending to raise? And thirdly, how far are you guys with respect to product development? Do you have, are the apps functional? Is the system functional and is it working? Is ready? So what stage of development are you guys at in the product development? In the product development curve, are you ready for deployment or still testing? Have you got the apps ready on the phone, etc., that sort of stuff, really?
Well, thank you very much for those questions. I'll just try and tackle the first one first, the product, well, the last one first, the product development. We've got a working prototype. I'd call it an alpha version, which is on blockchain, and it captures medical records, and that is the one we're deploying in. We've already done some field work in Mumbai with that in HIV and tuberculosis. The next rollout, or the next trial, if you like, is in Cameroon, and that is a version which is robust enough to handle, some work, but it's not what we want to take to the market in terms of being, it's not ready to be scaled up to collect, the 200 million patient records it's going to need to do if we start rolling out in Nigeria. But we have a functioning alpha version that has got virtually all the capability, and that's what we're using. In terms of IP protection, we're based in Australia, so we're covered by the prototype was developed in Australia, so we're covered by all the copyright laws in Australia. Anything that you publish, either written or electronically, is covered by copyright laws. We do have international patent attorneys looking at the work we're doing, but you may know that it is quite a complex area. It's quite difficult to you can copyright your actual fields and your captures and some of the methods, but to actually protect it fully is a little bit complicated. I think you implied already one of the main advantages we have is that we will be first in the market in these countries, and also the system is free. We're not charging end users. We're not charging hospitals or clinics or doctors to use the system. So there are not a lot of barriers to entry for us. So we were expecting that we're going to go in there. We've got a very easy to use system. It's going to get rapid uptake. So, in some ways that's going to be one of our major, one of the prongs of our IP development. But we are actively looking at other options and other strategies to enhance our protection. Now, you had one other question as well, which I can't remember the middle question.
Yeah, the other one was, of course, how much money has been raised privately from VCs and private investors. And because when I'm looking at this right now, I see $1 billion company based on what I'm hearing. Because just on vaccines and recording, just the use case for just recording, for instance, COVID vaccines and giving people passports and NFTs. That's just $1 billion market there that you've just solved. So it's a problem that you guys are addressing. And so I think the question I was asking was how much money has been raised privately, and at the moment it seems like you guys haven't had much by way of media attention, but I imagine once the articles are out there and published, and this group will probably explode in size. So yeah, just interested how much money's been raised and how much money are you planning to raise?
I think when it comes to, look, at the end of the day, we're not doing what some of these other projects are doing and raising everything from the crypto side of things. We are raising quite a bit of it, but we're not too in need of a lot of cash. So what we're trying to do here is quite limited, so then we don't oversell our tokens and etc. So when it comes to the private and how much we've sold or wanting to raise, I think if we don't mind having a private conversation with you around that. So if you want to DM us, we can have a side conversation.
Yeah, but I think I get where you're coming from. I mean, a lot of it's been privately funded up to this date. I mean, the journey we've been on is a 5-year journey, and that hasn't been funded by the crypto side of it. It's been funded by private investors and shareholders in the actual incorporated company. Doing all the early work and visiting all the countries, talking to the health ministers and all that sort of thing. But you're right.
May I jump in here? Hi, this is Kinza, and I take care of the partnership side from Geneva, Switzerland. And I think this is, a good time to add that behind the scenes, there's a lot of international organizations just waiting to leverage our technology, and as well a lot of organizations looking to support this through grants, through international development aid, etc., as soon as they see the implications. So there'll be funding coming from development agencies, because as you noted, this is huge in what it can do, and the ecosystem and the repercussions of having a health ID especially for people who sometimes don't even have an ID. This can really be leveraged not only in the health space, but in the whole development space. And this is being recognized by development agencies, and they're just waiting, on more proof of concept, etc., to step in and provide their support alongside international organizations. So there's this other side also to the funding that I thought it's important to note. So I just wish to add that.
Thank you, Kinza. Yes, are you able to just, because we haven't heard much from you actually, Kinza, and you're a really important linchpin in this whole thing. Are you able to just talk a little bit about your experience to the community for a little bit?
So I mean, other than this being more than exciting, from my side in Geneva, Switzerland, what I witness is this two communities between the development community, people that have been working in the health space, on the field, in war zones, etc., and striving to move things forward, and a really high-tech community, a lot younger, in the crypto space, and where one is reaching out to the other. I see people in the crypto space looking to support, world development projects, do their bit in helping, and I see people in the kind of non-profit and development agencies trying to understand, what this community is all about. So I think that's a really exciting advance in kind of two world communities helping each other. And this is moving forward quite quickly. People like UNICEF have already started doing innovation crypto funds, and the communities are growing together. Though there's still a long road ahead, because it's one's an old school kind of community that's been around, for decades, and the other one's relatively new. But there's so much potential between them, not only financial, but I mean, in terms of the whole decentralization model is so important to revolutionize, the needs, especially in places like sub-Saharan Africa. The whole, health ID, the very fact that the blockchain ID can actually, help communities like migrant communities and refugees, when you don't have a country anymore, but you still have an ID, even if it's through your health. So, I mean, I can go on for hours, and I won't, but the potential that is being unrolled in, and that's why we call it an Immunify ecosystem, because it really is an ecosystem. It's not just one product, one solution. It's something that can evolve according to the needs. And with so much needs, and with the opportunity to work both with governments and in a decentralized way, I think it will address can address a lot of the world problems today, because of centralization. And also, work with a centralized model. So it's a lot more than just a technology. It's really a vision, and it's through health, which some would have argued was not necessarily it's a common denominator on an individual level, but the global health needs of one side of the world were not necessarily felt that it would impact the other side of the world. And since COVID, we just recognized that it's one world in terms of the environment and climate, and one world in terms of health as well. And so I think the timing is perfect to have both the decentralized proposition and this ecosystem, which it's far more than just a solution. It really is a platform that can grow according to the needs. So
great, Kinza. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Kinza.
Oh, great stuff. Anything else there, crypto? Oh, actually, let's just see. We might have to call it quits very soon. Do you have anything else you would like to add to that Crypto Wall Street promo channel?
No, yes, I had one other question. I wouldn't, raising money using, the crypto, the way most revolutionary crypto projects raise money is they have these massive pre-sales, they raise millions of dollars, and they go off and they spend those millions of dollars with doing product development. My question is, are you guys intending to do something similar? Having, these, a public, it looks like reading your white paper that you're planning to have a public pre-sale at some point. When are you planning to have it? And have you got numbers in mind, or is that something you're able to?
Yeah, just DM us and we can chat about the numbers and bits and pieces. We are actually running a private sale for VCs and value-add investors at the moment. So the best thing to do is to chat to us, one-on-one if you want to talk numbers and bits and pieces, and we can help you out and work that through. But effectively, we are not doing a giant $40 million raise where we're going to be, taking a whole bunch of money and just putting it into developing these applications. We already have, a lot of the development underway. It's all going to culminate, fairly shortly in, the various apps and that we can deploy. And so, we also have a real business. I guess like some of these cryptocurrency businesses that you see, they don't really have a clear path to revenue. Whereas we have a very clear path to revenue, and we have multiple revenue streams. So effectively, we are a business that will make money from the real world. So we don't need to, take luxurious levels of money out of the cryptocurrency community, which are just not needed.
Brilliant. And another question: do you have any competitors? Is there anyone else looking at this vaccine and crypto tie? In terms of issuing NFTs, are there any emerging competitors that you're seeing?
No, not. We've reached out to many of them. We've got a good group of advisors in the crypto space that have actually scanned the whole environment, and we've come into conversations with two, but they're not as robust and this sort of scale. They're just essentially like dashboards or
potential partners. Pieces of help us with pieces of the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's essentially. They don't have the one thing that they are missing is actually the connections to the real world, so that's something that we do have, and we are rolling out in countries, and we have these great partners. So look, we're already there. But some of these ones, if you look at like in 2017, because we were around since 2017, myself and Tony since 2011. So we've seen what's come, and we had a great conversation with a VC about our competition and what is the difference, and why do the ones in 2017 not succeed is because they didn't actually have people on the ground, and they didn't have the connections and the network, and actually haven't been working in the space for over 60 years. So that's the difference. So when it comes to competition in the crypto space, no.
Another quick question. Security is a big thing, right? With patient records. How are you guys managing that issue? Managing patient records and, people's, it's personal information. It's protected by laws, GDPR in Europe, etc. And I'm sure there are global rules. So patient records and confidentiality, how are you guys planning to manage that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's cost of entry really for us to make sure we're compliant with GDPR and also HIPAA guidelines, the US standards, and anything we do will be compliant with that. We also have already got inbuilt functionality where the patients are giving informed consent to have their data shared. We build a relationship with the patients from the day one, and they can't participate in the system unless they agree to have their data shared. And every time their data is shared, then they will get a bit of a contribution from the sale of that data. That's a very good point, and it will not work unless we meet the highest standards of data protection.
I mean, if you take, for instance, HIV, anyone that's undergoing treatment for HIV, you want those people protected. You don't want that information being leaked. You want, so I'm coming at it from that angle, where you want to make sure there's, security systems are so robust that people's information is protected at all times.
Totally.
So that's the angle that I was coming from.
Yeah, maybe I can just jump in here. We will also check and validate what our assumptions and methodology with the WHO, and who have a whole department taking care of this type of concern. Because we're more than aware that it's maybe a death sentence in the country to have your information that you have HIV or certain issues like that, which become very political in certain areas of the world. So we're very sensitive to that, and we will validate with them per country, what the process is, and check with them that that the data, sensitive data, is protected accordingly. So not only from a technological perspective, but a kind of human rights groups within these organizations that really protect it. So that's something we're more than sensitive to from that perspective, because we're working with those organizations too. We adhere to their standards and their credentials as well.
Yeah, so just to speak to the data as well, effectively when someone comes and they opt into the system, they have their own identified data, which is their sovereign control data. So they're in control of that and who sees it at any one time. Effectively, when a doctor comes to check your records, you have to give the doctor permission to check your records. So that's the self-sovereign part of it. And you can also then mint your self-sovereign identification NFT, which allows those that are unbanked and have no identification to come into the, effectively have an ID in it and enter the world of DeFi, which is very topical at the moment within the Cardano community. And then when we do this opting in, as Guy has just mentioned, people opt in and the information is de-identified. That de-identified information is then pulled into the big pool data, or the big data pool, which effectively then is used to generate the insights for governments and partners that are using the data. So that de-identified information is obviously pretty sound and secure, and then the patient information is locked in a smart contract. So each patient has an individual smart contract, and then there's actually a negotiated contract which has the rights to talk to that contract, and effectively that's how we then broker any third-party person that wants to then approach that person and access their data. For an example of this would be a clinical trial where a pharmaceutical company would say, hey, look, we want to actually get access to this XYZ information from these people. And then that's when the smart contract would interact and effectively say, well, hey, would you like to engage in this information share for this in reward? So the whole piece of security has been something that we've gone through quite a bit with Diego, but effectively it's a multi-layered security approach. And yes, it's something that we focus highly on at Immunify.life.
Thank you, guys.
And I think my only question was, security is so big, it can bring down a company where if, for example, there was like a breach of data or some hackers found a back door, that I'd invest heavily in security around your tech, because hackers are clever. They always find a back door, and what you want to make sure is, prior to release, that your system is robust, it's hack proof, it's 100% robust, because people's lives, as Kinzer rightly mentioned, could potentially be put at risk with a data breach.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. No, we've got a situation here in New Zealand where our DHB got hacked in the middle of the North Island here. We've got two main islands. The third island will kill me for saying that, but we've got two main islands, and the northern one, it got hacked, and all of the information was actually then dumped online for everyone to access. So yes, huge issue with security, but that's definitely been a focus of Diego's.
Yeah, a big focus, and he's actually we'll mention this in the next one because we're still on NDA. So.
I think we'll bring Diego to the next one actually, and we can have that tech dive, and you guys can grill him on his various security measures.
Totally, yeah.
But I would say we 100% agree with your perspective that it has to be world-class security. It has to be equivalent to any bank, any financial institution, any military grade. It has to be at that level. Otherwise, we're exposing ourselves, in the future of the company. So that's a very good point, and we're 100% on board with what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I'm just a bit conscious about time.
1 hour.
Done a nice hour there, so I think we're going to wrap it up for this one. We like to keep it roughly around an hour, even less. But I think that wraps up quite nicely for this week. Let's aim to do another one probably towards the end of next week or the week after, but we'll try to make these a regular thing. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. Thank you, team, for being here. But most of all, thank you, community, for your questions, for supporting us and being part of this big journey.